Joining me is Sky News Business Editor Ross Greenwood. Ross, great to see you again. Today's inflation figure, headline inflation up from 2.1% to 3.2%. How bad is that?
It's not good. And the one that the Reserve Bank watches is underlying inflation, the so-called trim mean, and that's jumped to 3%. Now, that's the first time since basically late 2023 when that's risen in the way in which it has here. And it gives the Reserve Bank significant pause in regards to interest rates. The reason for that is that they'd forecast in this September quarter for the quarterly inflation under the trim mean to be 0.6%. They said a miss. In other words, if they realised their forecast was badly wrong, the Reserve Bank governor last night said it would be 0.9%. It came out worse than that at 1%. And so that's the real message as to why markets fell today. The stock market fell, money market interest rates went up, and the odds of a rate cut next Tuesday dropped from about 40% down to just 10%. And so really this is the recipe of what's taken place. And Andrew, I've got to tell you, the real sole cause of most of the inflation that's been there is energy prices, which of course sits right squarely at the feet of the government.
I know. And the government was making excuses like, oh, well, look, you know, the subsidies to the governments have been paying, state and federal, to sort of hide the fact that the electricity costs are going up and up and up. Those subsidies ran out. And so, of course, prices were going to go up. But even if you factored that in, what would prices have gone up without the subsidies?
So if you'd taken the subsidies out, so with what happened with the subsidies, and that was state government subsidies, and they came out, some of them, and so the prices on average rose over the past year 23%. Now, if you had ignored all of those subsidies, the prices would have still risen 5.9%. Now, given that inflation has come in at 3.2%, you can see that energy prices are almost twice what the general rate of inflation is. Now, this is where really, again, the whole fallacy that we're going to be able to control the price of energy is just a fallacy, and it's affecting industry. If you have a look at all of the major metals, sort of processes right now, it doesn't matter whether you go to the wireless steelworks, whether you go to the Mount Isa copper smelter, whether you go to Nearstar, which is lead and zinc in both Tasmania and also in South Australia. You go to all of these and you realise they're in the hands of the government. They're basically having to subsidise them to stay alive. The latest one, the Tomago aluminium smelter. And in every case, it's exactly the same reason as to why they're basically on life support, and that is energy prices. So it doesn't matter whether you're a household coping with rising bills or industry, which is dying. It's about energy prices, and yet government still keeps on trying to claim that prices somehow are coming down, which quite clearly and patently they're not.
What a joke. I mean, how can they keep claiming, we're giving you the cheapest form of energy there is, more and more of it, and prices go up and up, and how they don't figure that what they're telling us is a bunch of lies and they've got to go back to the drawing board. I mean, it's just so insane. Now, looking at all these things you're talking about, the high electricity prices, et cetera, isn't cutting them now the most critical thing the government could do for business and the cost of living in Australia? Forget the global warming malarkey, cut energy prices or we really are in trouble.
Look, the reality is it doesn't matter what form of electricity you use, be that wind or solar, or be that gas, which is absolutely vital, or hydro. It's just that the nation needs more of it right now. And the easiest form of electricity Australia can probably create relatively quickly is going to be gas-fired power stations. And for that, you need more pipelines, more approvals. You don't need any delay in any of this. Otherwise, you're going to see the electricity prices go even further from here, higher from here. That means more industry is either subsidised with your taxpayer dollars, or it simply disappears, which means Australia then has sovereign risk by not being able to produce produce steel or aluminium or indeed a whole range of other products that we otherwise would make. And it's just really interesting to note the man who runs the biggest company in the world right now, Jensen Huang from NVIDIA, basically has said overnight that the fact that Donald Trump has invested so much to give Americans cheap electricity, cheaper energy, it really is the key to the United States being the leader in artificial intelligence. Now, Australia wants to be a leader in artificial intelligence, but it will be hamstrung in that effort if we don't have much cheaper electricity. When I speak to people who are chief executives of big companies, steel companies, brick makers here in Australia, and who've got operations in the United States, they all tell me that energy prices there for industry is a third of the price of Australia. That is a competitive advantage that America's got that Australia needs to rediscover.
Yeah, and the government also now wants to be in the rare earths production business, and that also requires huge amounts of electricity. And I tell you what, you're right. We need to, gas is the quickest way of getting us electricity we need. But this is not a problem that'll stop in 10 years. Demand for electricity will keep on going, and the government is looking like a bunch of idiots for ruling out nuclear power. Absolute idiots for ruling that out too. Ross Greenwood, thank you so much indeed for your time.
Quite okay, Andrew.